Well, good morning. It's 9 o'clock and we have a 9 o'clock appointment. Welcome to the Community and Economic Development Committee meeting. Kevin Cross, your chair. George Martinez, co-chair, is excused. Today is March 14th. Let's go ahead and start on the far side of the table with introductions.
Karen Bronda.
Scott Myers.
And on the phone, I believe we have Randy Salt.
I am here. Thanks. Good morning.
Good morning. And Zach Johnson.
Also here.
Did I miss anybody? Hearing none, we shall proceed. All right, excellent. We don't have anything on unfinished business, so going to new business, we have a presentation by Emma Gibney with HLB Work Plan. Or whoever wants to give the presentation.
I'm gonna give it.
Oh, magnificent. Good.
Yeah, I think it was.
And if, yeah, just come up front.
Is that worse? Okay, I can do that.
We don't have a karaoke mic, so you might want to come up here with a
Do you want me to
microphone.
stand up there?
Or just somewhere closer to the front if you want to sit in a chair.
You want me to sit on the
Just speak from the diaphragm.
Okay.
Make sure they can hear you in the recording.
Wonderful. Okay, so good morning. My name is Emma Gibney, and I am the Land Management Officer for Heritage Land Bank. I'm here today to present the 2024 Heritage Land Bank Work Plan, which will be coming before the Assembly for introduction at the next Assembly meeting. First, I'm going to give you a basic introduction of the Real Estate Department. Then I will present the work plan, first going over the code requirements, followed by the process that has been completed so far. Then I will give a basic overview of what to expect in each chapter. Lastly, I'm going to present in more detail a few of our biggest accomplishments since the last work plan, as well as a few upcoming and continuing projects that may be of interest to this committee. Oh, and just a heads up, I made a few edits to the presentation, so it doesn't match the one that was sent via email yesterday, but the updated one has been posted on the CEDC website and just got emailed out. Okay. Which one do I have? Okay. Is that okay? Sorry.
There's an on button on there.
Is there an on button here?
It's on the side.
Oh, there you go. Good teamwork, guys. There we go. Okay, so to start off, I want to give a brief introduction of the Real Estate Department. The Real Estate Department has two divisions, Real Estate Services and Heritage Land Bank, both of which are overseen by the Real Estate Director. Real Estate Services is responsible for the management, disposal, and acquisition of municipal-owned and leased properties that are not in the HLB inventory, as well as administering the property tax foreclosure process. Real Estate Services is supported by the General Fund, whereas HLB is a self-supporting, non-tax funded agency, meaning that HLB funding is generated through permits, leases, and land sales. HLB's mission is to manage uncommitted municipal land and the Heritage Land Bank Fund in a manner designed to benefit the present and future residents of Anchorage, promote orderly development, and achieve the goals of the comprehensive plan. HLB currently manages over 12,700 acres of municipal land, the vast majority of which has multiple development limitations. Title 25 of the Anchorage Municipal Code contains the statute pertaining to public lands and is the code under which the Real Estate Department operates, with Chapter 2540 specifically pertaining to HLB. This code brings up another significant difference between the two divisions of the Real Estate Department. Unlike Real Estate Services, HLB has an advisory commission that holds public hearings prior to making recommendations to the Assembly. And also, HLB is required to submit a work plan to the Assembly each year.
So thank you. We've been joined by Dean Gates. Thank you.
Looking more specifically at AMC Section 2540.020, it states that the Heritage Land Bank Advisory Commission shall recommend and submit for Assembly action a comprehensive land and fund management program, including written policies and procedures to accomplish the purpose and mission of the Heritage Land Bank. It goes on to further expand on the three minimum requirements that this document should contain. One required element is the annual work program. This work program is to include proposed activities for the coming year, including land transactions such as acquisitions, transfers, and disposals, as well as management objectives and financial projections. It shall also include review of the previous year's activities, including financial information and land transactions. The second element required by code is the 5-year management plan. This portion should include potential long-term activities and objectives, as well as a 5-year financial projection. The third and last code requirement are the HLB policies and procedures to govern the management of the HLB fund and land. These 3 elements together are what we colloquially refer to as the HLB work plan, and what we are bringing before the Assembly for introduction next week. HLB began work on the 2024 work plan in October by holding a series of community and agency open houses to receive feedback and brainstorm ideas. In November, we gathered both the accomplishments from the previous year as well as potential future actions and drafted the first draft of the 2024 work plan. In December, we held a work session with the HLB Advisory Commission to receive preliminary feedback and discuss the potential actions for the coming years, as well as the policies and procedures section of the work plan. Later in December, we released the public review draft for public comment, sending it to other municipal departments, community councils, and our mailing list. We also gave the 45-day public hearing notice required by code. Over the course of the 45 days, we received a total of 28 submissions with over 100 individual comments or suggestions from other agencies, community councils, and members of the public. HLB staff summarized, separated, or distilled comments for substance before organizing them into a table and providing a response. In February, HLBAC held a public hearing and unanimously passed the Resolution 2024-04 recommending Assembly approval of the 2024 work plan. Since then, HLB staff prepared the Assembly documents and made the HLBAC recommended amendments to the work plan draft. We submitted it to the Assembly, and it will be introduced at the March 19th Assembly meeting, with public hearings scheduled for April 23rd. If recommended or requested, an Assembly work session may occur prior to the Assembly taking action. And please note that in the prior version of the presentation, I gave the wrong tentative date for the public hearing. It's going to be on the 23rd, not the 9th. Okay, very briefly, I want to walk you through the format of the work plan and highlight a few of the key accomplishments from the previous year and top priorities for the coming year. Chapter 1 provides an introduction to HLB. This is a great source of information on the history, objectives, and inventory of HLB. Chapter 2 goes through the accomplishments of 2023, including a list of resolutions approved by HLBAC, as well as a list of conservation easements that HLB manages. Chapter 3 lays out the potential projects, disposals, acquisitions, exchanges, and transfers that are anticipated in the coming year. It also includes information on the current studies, plans, and reports that involve HLB land. Chapter 4 is similar to the previous chapter, but with longer-term possibilities that are not as high of a priority. The remaining 57 pages of the work plan are appendices. This includes maps, our policies and procedures, and the HLB fund history and projection. It also includes a full list of the permits and leases active in 2023. The most lengthy appendix is the table of responses to public comments. Last, the HLBAC resolution recommending approval of the 2024 work plan. So I know I'm throwing a lot of information to you about this document, so I want to switch gears and highlight a few of our projects that tie this work plan back to the real world and the areas we live, work, and recreate in. A couple of the highlights from the last year were land disposals. First, we finished selling the Girdwood Industrial Park Phase 1 lots to the current lessees, which are all small businesses in Girdwood. Another project in Girdwood was completed in 2023 was the disposal of parcel 6-043 to the U.S. Forest Service. This disposal was approved by the Assembly in early 2022, and we are excited to see this transaction be complete. It was a collaborative effort with the Forest Service with valuable intergovernmental cooperation. Recently, HLB also received Assembly authorization for the disposal of 60 acres for the Holton Hills project, Phase 1 and 2 of which will be closing in the coming months pending the plat finalization. In 2023, HLB acquired 8 lots in the Laurel Acres subdivision in southwest Anchorage near Minnesota and 100th Avenue. These parcels were acquired for a future conservation easement and wetland mitigation credits to allow potential future development in other areas. Another highlight of 2023 was the appointment of Tiffany Briggs as the real estate director. Under her guidance, HLB has had a successful 2023. Check out pages 11 through 13 of the work plan for the rest of our 2023 achievements. So as for the coming year, I have a few projects I want to highlight, especially for this committee. First is the Girdwood Industrial Park. This tract is one of the only areas zoned for the industrial use in Girdwood. It's a vital part of the local economy and a top priority for HLB in the coming year. While Phase 1 was platted and improved several years ago, portions of Phases 2 and 3 were only partially improved. Future plans for the industrial park began last year with community conversations with GBOS, industrial park permittees, internal agencies, and the HLB Advisory Commission. We are hoping to complete a feasibility study in the coming months to find a path forward that is affordable, achievable, and beneficial to the community. We will continue to discuss the project with HLBAC and GBOS as the project moves forward. Another project in Girdwood that I'd like to highlight is the project we are working on with the Girdwood Community Land Trust in the South Town site, HLB parcel 6-076. This project is strongly supported by the community and the Girdwood Board of Supervisors. HLB and GCLT entered into a letter of intent that will reserve this parcel for up to 2 years so that GCLT may conduct feasibility studies on housing and mixed-use development that meets the highest and best standards for municipal land development and follows Title 25 code requirements. Most recently, GCLT released a request for information to gather ideas from the community on development possibilities in the Girdwood South Town site. HLB has ongoing monthly meetings with GCLT. I would also like to highlight the multiple cemetery projects across the municipality that are proposed on HLB parcels. This includes both the Girdwood and Eagle River Cemetery projects, as well as a nonprofit cemetery project proposed by Alaska Natural Burial off of Golden View Drive in the Rabbit Creek area. These projects are all supported by their applicable community councils and the public. In February of 2024, the Anchorage Assembly voted to add a bond to the general election for the cemeteries in Eagle River and Girdwood. If the bond passes, it would fund capital improvements for the Eagle River and Girdwood cemetery sites. HLB staff will continue to work with the various committees and municipal agencies as they work towards the next steps. Many years ago, the municipality acquired the parcels on the southwest corner of Lake Otis and Tudor to expand the turning lane. These parcels, including a DEC contaminated site, a previous Chevron station, have sat vacant since the road expansion project. In 2022, the Assembly authorized HLB to dispose of these parcels. In the next few months, HLB anticipates closing on a sale of these parcels to a private company who plans to redevelop the contaminated site into a car wash. Lastly, I want to mention the project that actually inspired the cover photo of the work plan this year. In the coming month, HLB will be bringing to the Assembly an ordinance seeking authorization to transfer 10 HLB parcels to the Parks and Recreation Department to support the creation of a new 300-acre park. This project, which has been led by the local nonprofit Great Land Trust, has the support of multiple federal, state, and municipal agencies, community councils, nonprofits, and recreation companies. These are only a handful of the projects HLB is considering in the coming year. Please review pages 14 through 19 of the work plan for a full list of potential projects. One last thing I'd like to mention is our online resources that can be found on our website, muni.org/HLB. There you will find a link to our interactive maps, which can be incredibly helpful for locating and learning more information on specific HLB parcels. I'm happy to answer any questions you have now or in the coming weeks after you have a chance to review the plan.
Thank you. That was magnificent. Randy, I have you in the queue. You're recognized.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate the presentation. Really appreciate a lot of what you've done. I guess my question is, I know Girdwood had put in for several other parcels, and I don't know if you want to answer it now, but just curious what the thought process is on those other parcels, whether they're no's or reconsideration at a later date. I realize they probably can't do everything at once, so I understand, being selective, but just want to continue that conversation of what happens to the other parcels that were identified and what maybe a timeline looking forward into the future. Thank you.
Yeah, so we included the email that you sent us as a comment in the work plan. So the response to those for those parcels is in the table of comments. I don't have the work plan in front of me, unfortunately. So I don't remember, but it's at near the end of the comment table. And I can email you and highlight where that was. We addressed all of those parcels and the plans for them.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. And, yeah, I did receive the email. Where can we receive a printed copy of it?
I can print one out. It's about 85 pages, so I try not to print too many copies, especially draft copies. But it is available in I have the link in the presentation. So if you go to the electronic copy, or you can use the QR code with your phone, and then I just haven't printed any.
Understood. I appreciate it. I'm old school, so I appreciate it. Thank you. I don't see any other questions. Emma, thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right, next on our agenda, proposed changes regarding well and septic standard discussion. Mr. Townsend, appreciate you coming today. This was just to give you, I know they've been working on this for a long time. This is something that I had particular interest in. As you know, our district, Scott and I's district, District 2, as well as the hillside, there's an abnormal amount of well and septic that affects our districts and our areas. And so understanding they had some draft proposals and some stuff they're working on. Before I left the assembly, I was hoping to get the opportunity to hear what you've been working on and what that looks like. So I really appreciate you being here. Go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we'll discuss what you have for us.
Hello everybody, my name is Curtis Townsend. I work at the on-site section of the Development Services Department. And over the last, since October at least, we've been working on rewriting the water well code only. The wastewater code was rewritten in 2018, and we don't have any immediate plans to do anything with that. So we're only working on the water well code now. This process actually started, I know of at least one other time in 2019 time period, but then we put that on pause when the world fell apart. So we're just now taking it up again here in 2023. And so the draft working copy was emailed out to you folks. I don't have printed copies of it, but it's available to review. So what I'd like to just today is highlight some of the major changes. We made quite a bit of changes, but I'm going to highlight the largest changes for you folks, and then take any questions for discussion afterwards. I think, so I have a whole list of changes, but I'm going to try and just cover the highest priority ones, and then depending on time, if there's, I don't know what my time allowance is here.
We have quite a bit, but we won't drag you on.
Okay, my goal is to just highlight things, but the goal is, this is being worked on right now at the committee of well professionals, engineers, residents. So we have a lot of stakeholders helping us out with this process to get where we're at. It's going before our technical review board right now for their review and input. And then after that, I understand it's supposed to go to the MOA legal team. And then after they are done with it, it comes to the assembly for your review. So this right now is just an introduction of where we're at and warn you of the future when it comes before you for review. So DEC is the state agency that regulates water and wastewater outside of the municipality, and they've made some changes to their water code as of last October. So we're incorporating some of their changes in their code into our code. They give us a delegation of authority to regulate within the MOA. But they also have this these wells that they no longer regulate that are within the municipality. They're all of the state. And so what our proposal is to take on those wells specifically that the DEC no longer regulates and regulate them under our new water code. And those are called non-public water wells. So right now our water code only regulates wells up to 2 family units. So a single family home or a duplex, we regulate those wells. And then DEC regulates wells that serve 25 users or higher. And so there's just space between that, what they regulate and what we regulate that's unregulated. So we propose to take on those water wells. To give you an idea of the numbers that those are, the wells that we currently regulate are in the range of 13,000 to 19,000. We don't know the exact number, but it's somewhere in that range that we presently regulate. And as of 2017, the last time that the DEC had numbers on those wells that are no longer regulated, those are about 450. So we're adding about 450 for currently at least 13,000 wells. So it's not a big additional number of wells that will be added to our regulatory authority. So that's one big change. DEC, under their new water code, is now regulating stormwater sewer separation from water wells. That's like stormwater that goes into a piped conduit. That's now required to be 100-foot separation from water wells. Because they have that regulatory requirement, we are required to have that too, so we're adding that to our language. Fortunately, those areas where we have a lot of water wells, there's not also a lot of piped stormwater conduits, but it will become an issue in some areas that we'll have to deal with that. And then presently in our water code, we have requirements. If a well is a low flow well, doesn't meet the minimum requirements of 150 gallons per bedroom per day, we have prescribed volume sizes for water storage that a house has to have. We're removing that requirement and just commenting that people should consider water storage if their needs require that. And then we do have language that describes what that water storage should be, what it should look like, what kind of materials, but we're not prescribing minimum volumes for water storage. And then in a previous title, there was subdivision requirements described, and those have been removed, so we're adding that into our water code. If a developer wants to come in and subdivide some land, we have language that describes what they need to provide to us in order to justify that land can be subdivided if it has on-site systems, water or wastewater. So those are the big changes I think that are going to have maybe the most effect financially on development that I wanted to highlight. Then there's some other things that we've clarified or adjusted based on current practices, but those are the things I wanted to point out. And so I don't know if it would be helpful if I gave you the references for some of you look like you're pawing through our water code, that's great. If you want references, numbers of where those items are, that you can go look to them later if you'd like to have that, or I can take questions right now.
Yes, please.
So if you look at the table of contents, you'll want to look at 5520 for the description of the types of wells that we're going to regulate. And then the table that describes separation distances is the 5560. 5570 describes water storage. And then 5590 is the new subdivision requirements. So if you want to read through those at your leisure, great bedtime reading, you can do that. And then if you have any more questions, I'm available to discuss. And then now I'm open for any comments, discussion, questions.
I see it, Amy. I had a question. Could you just be more specific with some of the spacing requirements, whether they were DEC, what some of the more significant DEC changes were requiring spaces from wells, on wells on specific properties? You say now we're looking to regulate from triplex through, you say 24 units, so starts at 24, or a well that services 24 individuals.
Yeah.
So now we're filling that gap. But
Correct.
what are some of the spacing changes that are going to happen regarding wells from distance to septic, depending on the size of the property? I'm curious on what that does to lot size requirements for different kinds of development. Because obviously, if we're increasing the spacing, you're going to need more land in order to maintain those distances. And kind of get an idea of what that impact might be.
So if you're with the 5560, so I don't have page numbers on here.
5560. Okay, here it is. This page right here.
Yeah, so the things that we changed, there used to be distances of 75 feet. DEC has changed all those numbers to now be 100 foot. So if you see sewer lines, it used to be a 75-foot separation, now it has to be 100-foot separation. And that sewer line now includes stormwater lines, not just sanitary sewer lines. So that's a change that will, but we don't anticipate that's going to increase lot size from current requirements. The current requirement, I don't have the exact number, but it's in the 45,000 square foot range that a lot to be now. So we're not increasing that lot size. And then, yeah, so I think that's the biggest change. All the numbers that used to be 75 are now 100 for separation.
So for holding tank went from 75, okay, so it's 75.
And that was all prompted by DEC changing their numbers, so we changed ours.
What are the differences between the red and blue?
So there's been multiple people playing in this document.
Okay.
And so I probably was the blue and someone else was the red.
All right, very good. I see now well casing is also going to have to be right above that, protected from vehicle impact. Is that only if you're located in adjacent to a driveway, or is that?
Yeah, so what we have going on is houses were built in the 80s and a well was out in the yard. And since that time, someone has had an ADU or a garage. There's a driveway right through where the well casing is to their driveway, into the garage. And so, well, that's a new thing that's maybe not new, but it's been happening more and more. So we're including that if you're putting a driveway through a well case, you need to protect it from vehicle impact. Or we have allowances for putting it in a well vault. Meaning the casing can be cut down below grade, but there's ways to protect that well casing or protect the aquifer from contamination of the wall.
And I guess still don't see anybody else in the queue. Don't want to make this. Oh, here's Zach. Zach, you have a question? Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks. I'm curious, with these new regulations and requirements, do we have any estimate how many existing wells will no longer be compliant, and what it would take for them to bring themselves into compliance? I'm just trying to get a sense of how significant the impact might be to homeowners and how many will be affected by this.
We don't have any idea of that because no one's been regulating them for a few years. At least as of 2017, if they were permitted by DEC, they would have met their regulations. And so I think what happens is under our new code, if they were installed at the time under previously permitted requirements, then those would still be in compliance now. It's just if there's any new wells that have to be drilled, they have to meet our standards.
Okay, I think I heard that correctly, but I'm just going to ask it just to make sure I have this 100% right. You're saying that any existing wells as of today will be grandfathered in. So homeowners who are coming to us saying like, wow, this looks terrifying, I might have to spend $10,000 for a new well. No, they're okay, right? You're just talking about new wells going in from the date of change once this happens, right?
Correct, but as long as they met the state DEC requirements at the time that they were installed, then there's nothing to be done to them. But if they did not meet those requirements, then they would have to be brought into compliance.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Gates?
Yeah, thank you. Two questions. One was about the certificate of on-site I forget the home.
Approved, on-site systems approval.
And you, owner needs to get that when they sell their property, if I understand, if they have on-site source, well, and septic. If someone sells their property, the grandfathered, I guess if it's 75 feet separation and not 100, that's gonna be okay for a sale of the property. Is that why you used to get a CASA?
Yes, so if they met the code at the time that they were installed, there's allowances for them to stay in place now. And,
And they'll get the CASA so they can use it.
correct.
The other thing you mentioned that these changes might come for the assembly, I guess. Did you have some idea of around when? May, June, July? When the assembly might see an ordinance with the code changes?
Yeah, I can't speak to that because we're still in the process of writing this draft code with our, I think we're done with our well code committee and now we're just presenting to the technical board. So we just presented to them yesterday at our tech board meeting. We'll meet again April 10. And I don't know what's going to happen April 10 if they accept it and approve it, or if there's going to be any additional comments. So that's an unknown date. And then after that, I understand it has to go to the MOA legal team. And I don't know how long they're going to take to review that and approve it. So it's going to be at least after April that it goes to the legal team. So I don't know when it comes to April to the assembly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You know, it's interesting because I know multiple small community wells that service 2 or 3 homes, all up and down Huffman Road. And so, I mean, I guess I never realized that a lot of those just weren't being regulated, or they were never, maybe they're not documented or unapproved because they're long-time homeowners. Kind of curious on how some of those small community wells or those shared wells fall into your aggregate because they're larger than 2 units, serving less than 24 people.
So a well that serves 2 dwelling units is currently regulated by our code. But you're saying that there's wells that serve 3, 4.
3 or 4 houses.
Those are not regulated by MOA or by DEC.
It's interesting. Because normally when someone goes to sell those properties, they still go through and have them inspected and everything. It's just more, you know. But I think it's important that we have some sort of documentation on it because they're a well that services quite a few people, covers a pretty, has a distribution pipe system in it, and multiple check valves and pumps depending on how it's situated. It can be rather complicated.
So a COSA doesn't inspect the mechanical systems other than that an engineer will test the water to make sure, the well to make sure it's producing enough water. And that by default tests the mechanical systems, but an engineer is not testing all the pumps other than just to make sure it's working. And so if a well is, let's say, serving 4 units, it's going to be hard to get an accurate flow reading of that particular well if one house is being sold because there's still 3 other houses flushing, showering, washing dishes. So a COSA would just require a water quality test in that situation and not a flow rate. And that's presently how we do COSAs for a well that serves 2 dwelling units and 1 house is being sold. We're not telling the other house stop using water so we can test the flow rate. We just do water quality testing.
Excellent. Any other questions? Yes, anybody? Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for your time, folks.
All right, let's see what else we have on our agenda. We're going to do it now. All right, committee legislative and budget priorities, annual list on page 2, review and update. Let's go ahead and take a look at that, page 2. So what we like to do is just take a look at what we said as legislative priorities and see how we've been working away at this list, see if anybody has any particular updates, and whether that's from development services or whether that's from the assembly. As you know, we're missing a handful of individuals from the assembly to give input on this. Some of these things actually, if you look at what's happened over the last year, 18 months, quite a few of these have actually been knocked off. I know that Anna's working on alcohol law changes, And we have Get an Update from Roadmap to Vital and Safe Anchorage Group. Mr. Schutte contacts Michael Fredericks. Those individuals, I see Chris here today. Expand tax abatement for reinvestment focus areas citywide. And I think that's probably going to merge into our vacant and abandoned property efforts, which I think is probably during the next year will be something that picks up momentum. There was a recent resolution by the Assembly encouraging expansion in that area. I'm just going to cut down and go to the ones I've been working on, not seeing anybody else unless somebody else wants to give us an update on some of the things. We know that K, third-party review for commercial, has been resolved. It said housing presentation versus that. We can actually knock I off housing presentation versus now versus then. We've done that. I've done that one several times. 3 and 4-plex expansion. We've got the triplex. We're still working on ironing out the 4-plex. And perhaps, rather than put you in the spotlight at the next CDC meeting, if Development Services, Ross or somebody wouldn't mind giving us an update on, there was an amendment to the tri and 4-plex, putting emphasis on the building department to improve the systems and timelines in order to bring 4-plex development in line with the times of residential, and maybe some of the challenges that we're having with that or how that's working. Probably not a lot of 4-plex requests right now because some of our changes are so new. The dust hasn't settled around them, and so maybe a lot of our builders haven't caught up to some of the opportunities we're looking to create. But it would be nice to know what if there's anything else that we need to do regarding making sure 4-plexes are more incorporated, more closely aligned with residential. We know that the residential zoning changes, we know that I believe it's Brawley, Voland, and Zalatel are working on their home initiative, and that would be great for a future CDC meeting if they want to give a presentation on how that's moving. I think that's supposed to be for us in the next couple of assemblies. And we got R4A zoning changes. I believe that was one we repealed. What update? We call it the R4A zoning changes were. Silence.
I remember talking about it.
Remember a lot.
Oh yeah, I think that one passed. That was the Fairview.
Oh, that was the Fairview
It
one?
hadn't been proper public notice, it got sent back and then that
Okay.
got done.
Well, most of these we've done, so what we probably need to do is go back and revise our list. Remove the ones that have been completed and look at the ones that haven't, and then maybe just reassess it where we're at. And if maybe we don't, let the dust settle a little bit around some of the changes that we've made to see how they pan out before we go in and rock the boat more. Although I know we would all like to, I know there's a significant number of us, I won't say a majority, who would like to see some of these obstacles removed or diminished. In that, I guess we're running way ahead of time. Does anybody have any questions, concerns, or anything that they would like to bring up? This meeting, Claire.
Claire Ross, I'm staff for the assembly and I help with the annual work plan. You guys have a new work plan now, so I'll send that to you and we need to update that back side of it with this year's plan.
Excellent. And I guess my only question is, since I have, Craig or Ross, I have a handful of you guys here, how is this construction season looking? Can you give me an update what you're seeing as far as permits and activity? I know that the planning board for many months did not meet. They didn't have anything. They were concerned that development was basically stagnating. Any indication that what we've been doing here is getting traction?
We're pretty behind the pace right now. If you look at the last few years, we're at about 50% evaluation of where we typically would be. I have seen quite a few plating and zoning cases coming through lately, so I hope that means that there's a few more things in the hopper. And we do expect it to pick up here pretty soon. Private development's picking up, so there's quite a few subdivision stuff that'll hopefully translate into more permits later. And then on the 3 and 4-plex, well, the 4-plex specifically, I think you were asking for updates, and I think I mentioned to you a few weeks ago that we discovered if we go by the letter of the ordinance that says we need to apply the residential permit fees to 4-plexes, that the fees actually go up. So that should be revised, or we take another look at that and maybe go back to commercial fees. Turns out you keep the fees lower for fourplexes if we stick with the commercial fee tables. And the last thing on the fourplexes, in order to bring in more in conformance to residential, that really rests with PM&E, and that was resolved, revising the design criteria manual to include those in the exemptions. So that's not in development services court so much, although we are working with watershed and PM&E to get that revised. That's it's municipal to do.
Excellent, thank you. What? Oh, Karen.
Well, I don't know if this is the proper forum, but the National Archives site, there was mention of health department maybe going on there. Does anyone know, what kind of things are planned for the National Heritage Site, or Cuddy Park, ex-Cuddy Park? I know that at the last meeting we talked about the creek going through there and daylighting it, and I just wonder if there's any update on that property.
This is to me. So the plan was we have an RFP drafted, and it was the same RFP that Robin had drafted when she was still here, because this is not a new concept with rezoning that parcel to R4A, was for mixed-use development. We didn't have anything specific that we were looking to go there, and then it got brought up about the potential of the health department going there. So
You haven't heard a lot about that though.
no, I mean we don't have anything for it specifically to go there. So I would assume it would be. We had drawings from when it was talked about being over here at Tudor Elmore. I don't know if those drawings could just be picked up and moved to archive site. So we need to look at that a little bit more. And then Fish Creek, that doesn't run through the parcel. It's in a pipe in the road. So how it would be daylit on that property, that's another conversation as well.
I had one more question. I got an email, and probably some other assembly members did, that the planning department issued recommendations on 87S 2024-0006, and I wonder, it says that they've said that the planning determined it's a very flawed AO and that will affect every area of the bowl. And I just wondered if anybody, this is like Greek to me.
Without the name of it, I'm
So
sorry,
I think
wouldn't
it's
be able to be with assistance.
2023-87S.
I don't know if that's the one that we peeled back.
I think that's the home initiative one.
Oh, that's the home initiative?
Can anyone from planning speak
Well,
to the?
The home initiative is the one we just spoke of. That's Volland, Megan, and Brawley's consolidation of going from 15 different residential zonings down to a manageable handful.
Well,
So Craig has a question in the back. Go ahead, Craig.
I can start. Craig Lyon, Planning Department, and Allison Wojciak is here from the Department of Law, and she can fill in some information as well. So the home initiative is up before planning and zoning on Monday. And I think what you might be referring to, or whoever contacted you might be referring to, is the staff report. Anytime there's an ordinance going to the Planning and Zoning Commission, the Planning Department prepares a staff report, and the analysis that was done is in the staff report. It is about a 40-page staff report. It's a pretty long staff report, but obviously that initiative impacts every residential property in the municipality of Anchorage for the most part. So it's a pretty extensive document. The summation, if I were to provide an executive summary of that, it would be, we're supportive of the concept. Our role is to make sure that any changes work with the code. And so there are lots of things that are challenges in there that need to be worked on and will take a lot of time doing it. So that's kind of, again, it's before planning and zoning on Monday. We have a work session first, and then the commission meeting itself when that time will be brought up. So it seems pretty extensive to me, and that might suggest planning and zoning might want more time to take. But that's up to them, 100%. So that's my take on it. I don't know if Allison has anything else to share on it.
My comments were similar to Craig's. I think it does seem like it's starting a home initiative, especially with it before the PZC on Monday is starting to generate questions from constituents and to assembly members, the mayor's office, planning. The staff report is worthwhile but long read.
The comments seriously flawed, did that language get used in the planning departments?
I guess my response would be, in the 40 pages, I don't remember that specifically being used, but if it's not there,
Okay. Well, I'll try to read it. I find myself being very sleepy.
Well, I would suggest if you're having trouble sleeping, that would be a thing helpful.
Okay.
It's a very complex topic.
Yes.
And again, it impacts every single residential property in Anchorage. And so there's a lot that goes into that.
I will look at it.
I haven't seen that stuff before. I'd be interested in it.
Yeah, the woman who sent the message to me said 2024-0006, and the woman at the front desk showed me how to access that, so I'm golden.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap up here. Just so you know, this is my last CDC meeting. You know, the next one's April 1st, and then there'll be an election, and hopefully, we've got Mark Littlefield sitting in the back here. That's a handsome gentleman in the back. Well, since he's running unopposed, will more than likely take my seat. So go ahead and make your introductions. Get to know him. He's a fantastic human being with a long track record of helping the community in District 2, Cherokee River, Birchwood, and just so get to know him. He's a wealth of knowledge. I think will be very valuable. I guess my closing statements as part of my last CDC meeting is I appreciate all the hard work we've done. This has probably been, this is the largest push. I mean, this has been the Assembly's priority for the last several years, trying to resolve a lot of the housing issues and trying to do more good than harm. Not always 100%, but, if we continued to let things go the way they were, it'd be detrimental. And one thing I would hope to carry on my vision for whatever happens, of course, once I leave, it's up to you guys, is that we really, one thing that never made sense to me is how we look at density. And that it should be based on the building size, the impact on the lot, and the number of people who live on it. And that is completely separate from the number of units. It made no sense to me how you can build 5,000 and 6,000 square foot properties with 5-8 bedrooms and 4-car garages and detached shops and tons of asphalt, and that's considered low density than a 1,500 square foot duplex or triplex. It makes no sense to me at all. So I would hope that you guys would work hard to untie some of that mess the way that we've created this, because untangling that so that we can build more reasonable, smaller properties so we can house more people. I really hope you guys will carry on that passion, because that was all my intent, was just to make sure that there's common sense in our code. Anyway, unless there's any other statements. Excellent, we are excused. Thank you.